We there? We good? Am I in the shot?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we in focus?
Yeah,
Okay, so. Cheers, bruh. Cheers, bruh.
cheers, bro. Nice curry.
Cheers, bruh. Nice curry. So this is a little bit of a dry run at something that we want to possibly pursue. Yeah. So a little bit more of a long form, who gives a shit conversation, wherever it goes, wherever it takes us, by the name of, what did I say it was called?
A stranger.
Stranger Than You Think.
Stranger
The
Than You
Stranger Than You Think podcast by the Jags. Stranger Than You Think podcast. I think that's quite sound, don't you?
Yeah, where's it come from?
Terence McKenna. Terence McKenna's The Universe is Stranger Than You Think.
And it certainly is.
So let's kick it off, mate. We're in a mad situation. So a friend of ours
It's been very hectic.
has just come round. His wife is a Virgin. She's a manager at Virgin Airways, but she flies regularly now because they want a bit of extra dough and whatnot. So she's been flying every weekend. She's just flown back from LA, and he rang me earlier and said that she's got, he's not massively into the whole UAP thing, whatever, but he said, mate, Lucy's just got home. She's got some UFO footage. The captain called her up to the
Cabin.
to the bridge cockpit, and apparently not on their radar. He thought the altitude was around about as high as close orbit Earth orbit satellites. 2 lights zigzagging, spiraling, doing all sorts of crazy shit. So this whole UAP thing is obviously evidently getting more popular.
Because like Clive put that across to us, and Lucy works on the airlines, and literally we don't really discuss that kind of stuff with them, but that was put forward to us. So they're first Stranger Than You Think. They've literally come along and told us about that stuff.
Yeah. So a
we're
friend of ours,
we're going to try and get the footage.
Going to definitely get the footage. She's going to get the footage off the captain. So that's some fucking insane UAP shit.
Yeah.
So let's fire, mate. What is on your mind? How crazy is shit getting? So, right, I was going to ask you the question there, but let me interject before you even got an opportunity to answer it, right?
Okay.
So what did Terence McKenna say when he said the universe is stranger than you think? I was thinking about this earlier, right? And he talked about this something at the end of time, point at the end of time. His theory, basically, that and bearing in mind the geezer died in early 2000s,
right?
And he said that novelty and complexity is accelerating to the point where he was going into artificial intelligence. He was talking about psychedelic experiences and the science of psychedelic experiences. He was talking about the what's the word when it something increases exponential, the exponential growth of technology, and how novelty and complexity accelerate, right? So to this point at the end of time,
okay,
where on the so there's 2 sides of that. One is chaos, right? And then the other side of that is, so this doesn't come without hardship, right? So on one hand you're seeing, and bearing in mind he died 20 something years ago, right? When we didn't have large language models, we didn't have this new UAP wave, this psychedelic renaissance, right?
Or the social media that we see today.
Anything like that, right? So he said what's going to happen is that everything is accelerating, novelty is accelerating to the point where you're going to have 2 sides of the coin. You're going to have chaos on one hand,
right,
death and destruction, war, fucking carnage. And then on the other, while that's happening in on one hand, on the other hand, you're going to have this fucking exponential growth of scientific discovery, psychedelic everything else that we see, basically, explosion of artificial intelligence, and it's going to culminate at this point, right? And I can't remember exactly what the term was because it's just popped into my head, but that was his, his kind of take on how society catapults forward into the future. And it's almost like the singularity, right? Might even be the singularity at the end of time, something like that.
Okay.
So we're racing towards this point, and as we go through the years, this complexity increases, this chaos increases, and on the one hand you're looking at one side thinking, fucking, we're going to die, we're not going to make it, and on the other hand you're looking at scientific, shit going through the roof, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, medical marvels, fucking all that stuff. And then we hit this point in time when we become this evolved species. Right? Does it not feel like that's where we're at right now? Does it not feel like, or is it just my fucked up mind? Does it not feel like we've got chaos on the one hand, and then just, unequivocal growth on the other?
Yeah, you can't deny that, or his concept of what he's saying, but,
Bearing in mind,
20 years ago, what would you know? But then there have been predictions on the future and what's going to happen. And there have been many conspiracies about there's a whole prediction that, not a prediction, there's a conspiracy that they've had to wait for technology to catch up with what's going to happen and what they can do. You've got all of that. Is there chaos? Yes, there is. Is there massive growth? Yes. Like, fucking Musk can put a rocket that's larger than a
22-story building.
And then make it land again.
Yeah.
Catch it with a big grabber.
Yeah.
So the cost to get into outer space, the cost for us to expand or push humanity away from this planet, is being reduced. I mean, I found something out today which I found very strange, and I don't. It's not like it was ever told to me at school or pushed out there, but in the space race with the Russians and then the Americans going to the moon, and then this whole push towards Mars, did you know that the Russians were literally going to Venus?
What manned?
Not manned, but they literally. So they were the first. So they were able to do the first probe or whatever that landed and sent signals back from the first planet ever.
Yeah.
Russians did it first.
No, I knew the Russians were the first in space.
Literally Venus. They're obsessed. They were obsessed with Venus. It is the closest planet.
Don't you find it weird?
We've got Moon, Mars.
Yeah.
Why aren't we going Venus?
Yeah, I mean, mate, the whole moon thing is just another.
Well, that's another conspiracy theory that you can go into.
I think to myself, right? How? So let's look at the Earth and the Moon, right? And what the Moon means to life on Earth.
Yeah.
Is fucking ridiculously important to life on Earth, right? It governs the tides, it governs the seasons. It's just the right distance away to help us with our gravitational, how the Earth's gravity
also,
works.
It doesn't spin, and it sits there and it goes around the planet while the planet goes around.
But how, if an object hit the Earth, and then bounced off,
which is what they say, and then formed,
how does it form?
Well, that's
into
gravity.
A round
that's
sphere.
Gravity pulling it in.
Yeah.
And we look at it and it looks like a sphere, but whether it is actually, they reckon it.
I mean, bear in mind, I am a fucking complete muppet when it comes to science. Like,
listen, they reckon a pool ball or a snooker ball is
not round.
More round.
Oh, the Earth is like an elliptical shape, isn't it?
Because we got the oceans and everything. So we're not round, but you've got the ocean fills in areas, and then you've got mountain ranges, but they're so minute in comparison to the volume, you don't see it.
So, but the Earth is weird. The Moon is weird.
The
whole Moon
weird.
situation
It doesn't
is weird.
spin for starters.
Don't spin.
And we only ever see one side of it.
It sounds hollow, right?
Apparently.
And like you say, you don't see one side.
Oh, the other fact about the Moon is all the stuff on the outer, like the dust and that, is older than the stuff that if you drill in, the rock is younger than the stuff that's on the outside.
Right.
I don't know how, if you watch the Y-Files, he's done this whole thing over it.
Yeah.
And there's this whole thing like that when they drilled down, they pulled this rock out and they tested it. However, they would do this evaluation for isotopes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The stuff on the outside is older than the stuff on the inside. So on this planet, the further you go down, the older the rock.
Right.
And that's completely different on the moon. And also, all the craters only go to a certain depth.
Yeah.
They don't go any deeper than a certain depth.
Right.
So that's weird.
The whole thing's weird, mate. The whole, you know, you when you think about, like, does magic exist? What is there this supernatural? Is there anything supernatural? Do the supernatural tales, like the ufology, the fucking, you know, the occult, all of this life after death? Life itself is fucking weird, right? The whole fact that when you think about everything that's ever happened, and that picture of the pale blue dot, right, does my nut in when I see that picture. Because you look at that picture, and I watch this Alan Watts, someone had done like an Alan Watts video over the top of that picture of the pale blue dot, and it said, and he says, every war, every king, every queen, every lover, every father, every mother, every battle, every tale, every story of everything that we can ever think of, every discovery, every historical fact happened on this tiny little inconsequential dot.
Yeah.
Right? And you think, like,
it can't be the only thing.
The planets,
the
names. For me, there comes this point where, having done all the DMT and gone to these mad places like psychedelic mind spaces and that, for me, right, there's this crossover in perception that we are missing somewhere along the line, right? As because we get curtailed into these boxes of our lives and everything that's going on, right? And then you have your psychedelic breakthrough experience, and it kind of opens up the boundaries of what, you know, what potentially is out there. And I think to myself, we're looking at the whole thing fucking wrong, because, you know, you look out at the solar system and you think, well, that's Mercury, that's Venus, that's Jupiter, that's Uranus, that's the Kuiper Belt. They ain't called any of those things.
No,
we've just called it that, right?
Yeah.
So, do you know what I'm saying? So, like, we imprint this
but the
thing.
language. So that's just.
Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, but that's human language, so you can call it whatever you want.
Yeah, but it ain't called that. Let eradicate human beings.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not called that.
It's not called that.
No.
It's this system, this whole.
Yeah.
Mega structure, this fucking creation, this simulation, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think if we as human beings are going to progress, like, we've got to change the way.
Yeah, but that, I'll tell you what.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that won't start until you start to move out the way, out the solar system, and traverse the galaxy. That ain't going to happen for a very long time. So we look at everything. The whole mindset of humanity is we're arguing, like Joe Rogan says, we're just monkeys arguing over resources, right?
Apes.
Yeah. Simians, which is, so when you look at that concept, yeah, that's how we would, because that's how we've evolved. If you looked at the concept of, on this planet, 4.5 billion years ago, some sort of single cell organism started growing in the oceans,
in the soup,
and it took 3 billion years before they became not even complex cells.
Yeah, just multi-celled.
And then after that, it just grew and grew and grew, and it went a bit faster. And then look at humanity or whatever. We've only been on, literally, we're just a blink of the eye of this planet, which is 4.5 billion years old, of a universe which is apparently three. No, who knows?
Who knows, mate?
Because that's what we're looking at. The light we can see is only that old when you look at it.
Yeah, and you think, like, you get told these facts like they are facts, right? But to a civilization who's a billion years in front of us, they would just sit here and go,
a billion years, they wouldn't even bother with us.
Do you know what I'm saying, though? Let's just say they had the humour and the humorous to be able to just look at us and understand what we're saying.
Yeah.
And you've got scientists, you've got Sean. I've had a couple of beers, so I'm thinking people's names and whatnot. But
good, because I feel like that normally.
right, you've got scientists that give you this. This is the fact, yeah, and this is we know the limits of.
Stephen Hawking said we will get to a point where we understand everything. Right?
Science. What I'm trying to say is we know. You have scientists that say we understand the majority of what's going on in the universe, right? But they understand what's going on in the universe within the boundaries of what we can perceive.
But no, Paul, they don't, because they only understand like 4%.
Yes.
Of what's there.
Yeah.
Because there's the whole other bit.
But I'm talking about the laws of nature, the laws of physics.
Yeah.
Right. So you get this egocentric.
Because the model and the maths, like Einstein's theory, they map.
It works.
And they work.
Yeah.
It works when they calculate stuff. Newtonian physics, that worked. And the theory of special relativity, that works. It works in a different way, right?
Yeah.
So yes, then there'll be something else that comes into play.
Yeah.
And that worked. Right, I'll tell you something. Talking about strange things, yeah.
Stranger than you know.
Stranger than you know. So I was listening to Brian Cox and he's talking on Joe Rogan, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I like Brian Cox. I've been to see his shows, right? And I watched, was it The Infinite Monkey? I listened to The Infinite Monkey Cage, yeah. But he said something because he works on the CERN, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Or he did. I think he's a lecturer now. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a random thing because he's talking about space travel. Now I know if you fly away from this planet at a certain speed of light or whatever, you go away and you come back.
And life on the planet.
However
changed.
long you've gone away, it don't matter because it's literally massively
could be 200 years.
So there's time. That's time dilation.
Yeah.
That's fine because he's then talking about this thing. What he said was like at the speed of light, the closer you get to the speed of light, distance changes. It fucking blew me away because I've never heard this, never read it in a book, never listened to it. So I've got to check it out. And if anyone can actually come back and correct me and make it right. So what he said was...
Well, if he said it, it's probably right.
Yeah. So at the speed, the closer you get to the speed of light, distance changes.
So the distance that you would presume is be 100 metres, you might see it as...
If it's 50,000 light years away...
Yeah.
His comment, I had to keep watching it, but his comment was, right, you get closer to the speed of light, we get there in 2 minutes, you come back, it's like 1,000 years on Earth, that's fine. But he said, what happens is the closer you get to the speed of light, it can push. So I think what he was saying is those atoms, they go around 24 kilometres, when they, on the particle collider.
CERN.
So he said, but basically, when they're travelling at the speed of light, or that 99.99% of the speed of light, it's only 4 kilometres.
Right.
No, 4. Gonna have to check my facts. That or 4 metres.
Well, regardless, it's like
7,000.
Yeah.
The numbers he quoted these numbers like 7,000% less.
So okay.
So no, don't move on.
I'm not going to move on
because I'm like, what? How do you change distance?
Because what else he said was as well. He said what else he said was, which again was something I watched that. I don't think I watched far enough to get to that bit. But what I did get was the bit about time. He was talking about time. Dustbins coming down.
Yeah, look, bin lids. I might be lucky. They might just not interrupt.
So he's talking about time, right? And he says, we don't give enough credence to time. We don't think about time enough as a separate. You think time is a
time's aligned with space, basically, distance.
So space.
It takes that long to get there.
Yeah, and time is a linear thing from our perspective.
Yeah.
But actually, when you look at time in more detail, maybe there is something to do with time that is part of the a law of nature,
like the Mayans believed,
quite possibly.
Yeah. Where are you going with that?
Just waiting for the kids to fuck off. Put me off my train of thought. So again, I suppose it comes back to what I was just trying to get. The point I was trying to get across is that there are multi-dimensional angles that a bit like in the film Contact, is an easy way to describe what I'm trying to say, right? So in the film Contact, Jodie Foster, when they're trying to look at the primer and they've got these like 26,000 pages of text and they're trying to work out where they've got to join up, and old John, old John, what's his name?
Can't remember, but
you
ain't beating it, right?
He folds it, doesn't he, into three-dimensional, and he says that
you're looking at it in 2D.
You're looking at it 2D when you should
3D.
Yeah, so that's the point I'm trying to make. It's like we look at the way we're so steadfast in our old patterns of thought that it needs fresh eyes on ways of thinking about these things, right? So and then I get taken off on another tangent. I think, okay, well, if you sat all these scientists down in a room,
smashing like with DMT,
a massive blast of DMT. Yeah. These scientists that have never, like these scientists that have these fresh young kids that are just like switched on to fuck, but still have gone through the doctrines of generational education. And go, right, you're going to sit in this room for a week.
Fuck up their career, though.
Yeah, but is it?
Yeah.
You're going to sit in this room for a week and you're going to smash DMT, right? And you are going to look at the geometry of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the way that it opens your...
But isn't that the way they're going with it? Like, take people into this, like, with the extended state, and then they get used to people map it out, and eventually they'll just pop some physicists and mathematicians, get in there, and they start fucking...
I think that is the plan, isn't it?
And then, okay, who knows what's going to happen with that? Then maybe the entities will go, oh, fucking hang on a minute.
Well, obviously...
There's actually not a couple of, like, hippies.
Well, hang on a minute, so they're just about...
Put some actual intellects in there.
Right, okay, yeah, so... They've just, and I don't know if you've seen this or not, this is proven, this is fact, they've just transferred in an experiment, 2 lucid dreamers transferred a message in the dream space.
Okay.
That's factual.
Without the use of psychedelics?
Just dreaming, bit remote viewing style, right? 2 different people.
Or whatever it is, they do that.
They've sat 2 different people in a room and one had a message to give to the other, and they transferred the content of that message in a lucid dream.
Right.
So...
And they actually achieved it?
Achieved it. Google it now on your blower if you want to, right? Anybody else can fact check this. I saw it a couple of weeks ago. I saw it in multiple different scientific reputable journals online. And then when you look at what's going on with the extended state, so with the extended state research, they've now all of the experiencers have formed groups where they're talking about all this stuff, and you can go online and you can read it all and you can see what they're saying. And they're all saying the same thing, that after 15 minutes in that state, everything stabilises to a certain extent, and you can start to navigate it, right? So one of the next levels of the experiment is to have 2 people going in
together,
like we did for Dave Luke, and did that telepathy thing. They're now going to do that under controlled circumstances and see if they could get 2 people to either transfer data or meet up in that space or whatever. So we're kind of pushing towards it, which is cool. And this is what I'm talking about.
Different levels as well, because you've got
talking about, isn't it?
You've got lucid dreaming or astral projection. What's the actual term?
Lucid dreaming.
No, where astral projection is
out of body experience.
Flip theory.
Flip theory. Yeah.
Right, and then you've got psychedelics, and so they're looking at it on different levels. Whether you have to bring in the psychedelics, because people can achieve a altered state of consciousness without the use of a psychedelic drug.
Yeah, of course.
And if you wanted to take it back to what we used to talk about, well, maybe we've had that stuff has been placed here so that it's given us this thing, so that we then try to achieve it in different ways, looking at all the different substances, and eventually you get meditation, people breathing, or Wim Hof or whatever it is, and we learn you don't need the psychedelics. It's just a state that we can get to without that.
Yeah, and ultimately, if you think about the brain, like Mr. Gallimore says, that the brain is the receiver of external information, however that may transpose.
Yeah.
Similarly, your interpretation of this external environment and my interpretation of this external environment are similar.
Yeah.
Might not be absolutely bang on, but similar. When you, so theoretically, any information that's out there should be. I've just fucking totally made that shit up.
You've lost your mind.
I don't know what I'm trying to say.
To be fair...
What I'm trying to say is, yeah, do you know what I mean?
No, I was just about to say, to be fair, it's not like a Joe Rogan where you can drink whiskey and smoke joints.
No.
We've had a couple of beers, a couple of glasses of wine and curry, some hectic kids, hectic friends turning up, and it's not like rocking up down the beach doing an early morning film.
No.
It's a little bit more relaxed, so you just got to rein it in
and
figure out what the fuck we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because what is the strangeness?
Well, the strangeness is that we don't know fuck all, mate.
We don't know fuck all. We've got to learn a lot.
We don't know fuck all, do we?
Listen, if we're going to do like some long form podcasts, there are so many topics out there that we don't discuss that I literally look at, and then you look at stuff and I go, well, I ain't been looking at that, and you're like, well, I've been watching this, and I go, well, I've been doing that. Like you spoke to me about them guys on the podcast, can't remember
Rogan's podcast.
With the ancient history stuff. I am literally, my algorithms just feed me ancient history.
I can't believe you ain't seen that.
But
this is what I'm talking
you're
about.
Going, mate, you're telling me stuff, and I'm like, I know that.
This is what I'm talking about.
I know about Baalbek.
This McKenna thing where he's talking about this everything accelerating. There's so much stuff.
Information overload.
So much, mate.
Constantly being fed.
And it's like, the UAP thing for me at the moment is high on the agenda. The psychedelic
So
stuff.
I'm being fed no UAP stuff.
No, mental.
Not anything at all, because I ain't looking at that. But literally, I go on, and it is definitely stuff about the state of the world right now.
Yeah.
Fucking load of scaremongering coming across on that.
Of course.
Right, and then I go, get out of that, go into my subscriptions and look at what's on there, and then I just start getting fed ancient history stuff.
Yeah.
And the Y-Files, which I thoroughly enjoy, because he's got a really good way of explaining, coming up with something, talking about it, and then bringing the facts apart. I enjoy that, right? Mm-hmm. But none of that knowledge is new, especially the ancient history stuff. None of that stuff is new, mate.
No.
I'm just watching it going, there are new findings that are coming out.
Well, they've just found a whole city in Mexico, haven't they? A couple of days ago. A whole new city.
Well, why wouldn't they? And the whole stuff about the Amazon and the LiDAR and what that's showing up, and the whole thing about the 1500s when the guy went, they tried to look down the river, and in the end they couldn't row back, so they just went all the way, and then they went back.
City of Gold.
And said, literally were like, no, there's like literally cities everywhere, millions of people, blah. And then when they went there, no one was there, because 200 years later they'd all been eradicated by some fucking virus, smallpox or whatever, and then the jungle would overgrown, and now they're looking at what's in the jungle and they're going, this shit is beneficial to humans. It was planted. It's like a planted thing.
It's like an agricultural dream. The whole Amazon is like a garden.
It's like a garden. And
which
then
is mental. That's mental. If you think about that, like, that's just an out of control garden.
It's just
like me moving into this house, right, and having a lovely garden out there and going, well, look at that garden.
And then not touching it for 10 years.
Well, it's a product of what someone did 25 years ago, right?
Exactly that.
So the whole Amazon jungle could be some elaborate garden. I mean, we could go down so many rabbit holes, mate. It's ridiculous.
Yes. So So is it strange? Is it strange that we're only just realising now that the Amazon had a lot more going on in it? Mexico, Peru, Brazil, all of them places.
And then you've got to look at their their religious views, their historical, their state of mind, their consciousness, the way they perceived reality.
Did they use?
Psychedelics,
lots
obviously.
Of them, they definitely use psychedelics.
So you think like, are we this dumbed down matrix commodity human being, right? Like, are we just, is it by design that, 40 years ago in the 60s, 60 years ago in the 60s, the average house price was 28 grand, and the average salary was 19 grand, right? In 2024, the average house price in the UK is 350 grand, and the average salary is 28 grand, right? Yeah. Are we just a commodity that is just designed to work, to be dumb, to not, to, you know what I mean, from a control mechanism perspective?
That whole 1% being
because are we souls in these vessels that are all powerful? When you do the DMT and you meet these godlike entities, and you're like, and they go, "You are fucking all powerful."
Yeah.
By the power of Grayskull.
So like paganism or whatever, and then no disrespect to religion, then Christianity comes out and it changes everything. One God, whatever, do this, do that, 10 Commandments, only live in this way. Not saying that was part of the dumbing down, but if you look,
I think we are, mate.
If you look at the ancient history stuff, I think they had far more knowledge about what was going on. Maybe certainly the Mayans, they knew.
It's a different way of life.
They knew the stars. They mapped this stuff.
But then,
right?
are they the 5th or 6th generation of civilization?
Could have easily been that.
Were we put here at the beginning, at the dawn of Homo erectus?
Did the Anunnaki come
where
down
we seeded? These visitors that are here now obviously are here. There's something here,
possibly.
Right? There's something here. Did those beings or beings like them come here and go, this planet's ripe, let's seed it, bang, 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 we'll keep an eye on it, we'll come back, and all of a sudden, hang on a minute, the kids have found the matches, this is the classic thing, isn't it? The kids have found the matches, like splitting the atom, nuclear bombs, fuck me, the kids have found the matches, we need to go and check and make sure, because we are on the cusp of the great filter right now. I do believe that we are on the cusp. We're either going to make it, or we're going to fail miserably and end up fucking dead. Civilization, right? Another time round. I honestly believe that's where we are at.
What they say, 300,000 years of humans being exactly the same as us. We're saying 10,000 years of us being around to get where we got now.
But like Richard Dolan says, mate,
it could have happened.
Like Oppenheimer's grandparents, not Oppenheimer, who's American. Let's say Oppenheimer, even though he's German, right? Oppenheimer's or descendants, great grandparents of the likes of Oppenheimer, were riding fucking horse and carts, mate.
Yeah.
So we've gone from riding across the plains in horse and cart to the atomic weapon in 2 generations.
I think the first flight of humans was around the
planes,
early start
radio
of the 1900s.
Waves, computing.
Early start of the 1900s, and they went, no, literal proper human flight will never happen for the next 1,000 years. Or some newspaper article went, Wright brothers are trying to fly.
Yeah.
Ain't going to happen.
Forget it.
Right? 120 years later,
private jets.
Rockets going up and landed.
That's what I mean, mate. We've sent the Pioneer spacecraft out. Pioneer probe is like deep space.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's...
So what would happen in another 120 years?
Will we get there though, mate? That's what I'm saying. We are so close to the great filter, mate.
That's the whole talk about. Will we destroy ourselves before we actually get past that?
And you look at what's going on with these UAPs, and you look at what Lou Elizondo's talking about when he says that they're interested in our nuclear weapons, and that you know, is there going to be some big intervention?
Are we going to come down here and just hold our hand
and is DMT the key? I reckon we should wrap it now.
Yeah, probably.
Right,
kids are getting noisy.
That was good.
Start.
That was a good start. Let us know what you think.
I'll tell you what we won't do. We won't bring the kids round, and we won't have some alcohol.
And we won't sit in front of a roaring fire where I'm just like sweating my backside off.
But we might try it again, because the conversation could actually blow up like it does with us when we're in our normal everyday life. When we talk about shit, it just goes everywhere, and that's actually what we're trying to achieve. So we're not trying to focus on one point. It's just a conversation like you would have with your friend who's in line with what you think, and how that conversation goes forth.
But then we can pick specific topics. We are going to be obviously hitting the old pens, and we are going to do some experience videos, and we will still do the normal stuff.
Yeah.
But this is a little bit something different. It's obviously we've reduced all the editing stuff. It's just us two having a chinwag, which is what we used to do when it all started.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about it. Let us know some topics that you want us to talk about. Throw some questions in there. Maybe we'll do a live.
Yeah, maybe.
Might
Somebody please explain to me about this fucking distance reducing at speed of light.
And we'll obviously knock back on the beers. Anyway, it was decent.
All right, sweet.
Peace.